Today's episode comes to you from the Blue Chew studio. Right now, when you buy 2 months of Blue Chew Gold, you get the third for free with promo code MyWorld at BlueChew.com. Hey, it's Conrad the Mortgage Guy, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Connie, it sure is good to see you back in the home studio where you're at. I'm ready to go today on My World recording day. Boy, oh boy, the wrestling business, it never slows down. I think that's why me and you sit down here and enjoy ourselves. Hopefully our My World listeners and viewers of YouTube, we enjoy just chopping up, talking about the wrestling business. But man, oh man, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, probably for the last year or so. And I'll let you obviously drive the ship here, but for the last year or so, and we got a lot to catch up on. Code stuff, maybe a few cat stuff. What a trick play ending of our game yesterday from Kentucky. But anyhow, Conrad, on this podcast, we have talked about the paradigm shift with the biggest wrestling organization in the world, that they no longer report to the fans. They report to every 90 days. Has it been any clearer, Conrad? Let's just come right out of the gate. Has it been any clearer? And I know I'm jumping the gun, but maybe it's just a one-word answer. Would you say it's clearer now than ever?
Corporate wrestling is here to stay. And you have talked a lot about corporate wrestling and what your dad thought about corporate wrestling. We're going to be talking about all the news that's fit to print. There's lots of rumor and innuendo around TKO and contracts. We're going to talk about some surprising headlines. And now we're going to look back with maybe the benefit of hindsight and ask some other questions. But before we do that, I think we should take a look at 40 years of Double J. There's a brand new piece of merch from Pro Wrestling Tees. This is pretty badass. It's metal art. There's only 100 made, and 10 of these will have custom inscriptions. They're random. So go place your order right now. I think Mel Coleman did a phenomenal job on this. We've worked with Mel before for some things for StarCast.
Oh, wow.
You really want to talk about the history of your career. I mean, you see it all. Double J at the very top, when you were first getting hot in the WWF run. And then when you came back and you created this new persona with Tennessee Lee. I mean, you see that right there with the Double J. And then you've got, the Slapnuts WCW era, but maybe our favorite at the very bottom, the Last Outlaw. This is on sale now at ProWrestlingTees.com, and it's metal. And you can actually get them autographed, but 10 of them will have custom inscriptions. This is a cool piece of memorabilia, a cool way to celebrate 40 years of Double J. I think Mel did a fantastic job. What do you think?
Conrad, I was blown away when they reached out. Shout out to all that entire team. And they said, hey, man, let's do something special. And I said, I'm up for anything. What do you got? As you can see, the little action figure, we did one of 100 on those. But as far as the metal art, Conrad, I really, they threw the idea, Ryan and his team, I just think they're really good folks, but they just know what they're doing. And so, man, I got a story for you here, Conrad. So metal art is what it is. Metal looks heavy. So they shipped them here to the house, and he said, hey, man, let's have some fun with them. I said, whatever you want. So I signed, I was going to, sign all 100 of them. And he said, just kind of play with it. And I said, okay. So he said, pull 10 out, and they're going to be unique inscriptions and all that kind of stuff. So I did chosen one, the 4 pictures on that, but there's one of one. There's one of them on there that only one of one that says Slapnuts. But Conrad, and so we shipped them in 50, 50 in one box, 50 in another box. So I take them up with our little shipping place here locally in Hendersonville. It's called Pony Mailbox. So dropped them off in the 2 different boxes, easy return and all that. And shipped them off. I get a text 2 days later and said, you're not going to believe this. They've lost one of the boxes. And I'm like, oh, God. And said, yep, as luck would have it, it's the box with the 10 inscriptions. And I'm like, oh, man. But sure enough, UPS came around and it took a few days, but they came around and they found it and they boxed it up. No damage, nothing. They just lost it and they shipped it on up, and now they are on sale. It is very cool piece, man. It is. And Conrad, I didn't even hold one back. Shame on me, or hold two back, one for me, one for you. I know how you like to do your memorabilia, but yeah, very cool. Shout out Mel, incredible artiste, but all the PWTs, and so you can get them now, and that's cool. We did a little video for it, but I appreciate you bringing that up today, right out of the gate, pal.
Well, I got to, because I'm going to go pick one up, and I actually made sure to order mine before I even told anybody to go order theirs. Because you're right, I did want to have one of these. I even had to have a spy down there at a Ring of Honor taping when they gave away little miniature Double J guitars. I got one of those too, because I know I can't count on your ass to hold nothing for me. So
Gotta sell it.
I'll just go source it on my own.
Picture money.
Got
Picture money.
It's evolving. Go check it out. Hey, it really is cool. I hope you'll go take a look. Pro Wrestling Tees has it right now. There's only 100. I am going to ask though, Jeff, I don't know if you've seen, but guys like Kevin Owens and maybe a few others, but certainly Kevin, he had a little fun with trading cards. I don't know if you saw this, but in the last 2 years, whenever he's had to sign a big stack of trading cards for Tops, he would occasionally just write silly stuff there, like really, really silly stuff. And that has gotten some attention on social media. Did you write any silly stuff on any of these? And if not, can I get you to do that next time?
You know what? I appreciate the heads up, because you know me. I promise you I'll channel my inner Owen and then some. Yeah, heck yeah. I didn't even really think about that. He just said make 10 specific or, unique inscriptions. So I did, I did Chosen One on 2 of them. I did Double J on 2. I think I did Last Outlaw on 2. And then, Ain't I Great, I think on 2. But on that one, I did, I think I threw it all in there. Double J, Jeff Jarrett, The Last Outlaw, Choke on That, Slap Nuts, or something like that. Had fun with it. But man, now that you know I had fun, Conrad, who knows, man. I'm going to call you and say, give me something funny to put that. What are some, I won't even, you know what? I may even call Cardona. Cardona may have a good line or two that would be kind of insider, maybe IWC specific. I don't know. I'll have fun with it. That's a good idea. Hey, do you know, like, what's an example that Kevin had? What was the silly stuff that he put?
I've signed way too many of these today. My hand hurts.
Yeah.
Silly shit.
Okay.
But I mean, I think you could start a tic-tac-toe. You could put Go Vols.
Yeah. Anything.
You could put, I know there's a lot of fun stuff. I'll talk to you about some ideas.
Okay. Yeah. I bet.
I love the idea of you writing something silly and then somebody pulls it, sees it, posts it to social. It almost becomes like, hear me out. This is a little silly. But when I was a kid, there used to be this phenomenon about message in a bottle. You're going to write something, put it on a bottle, and then throw it in a body of water, and then somebody finds it one day. This is kind of like the wrestling collectible equivalent.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, I mean, I like that. I'm like 100. Okay. So you've got to and he goes, people that, they'll buy multiples. They love all that, but you've got a 1 in 10 chance, which is pretty cool. You got a 1 in 10 chance. Yeah. I did that thing in Indy, that signing, Conrad, and a guy respectfully came through the line and he had me sign, whatever. And he was very respectful. And I signed a couple with unique inscriptions, but all that. And sure enough, we struck up. He emailed me. He put that because I said, I'd like to know. And he said, oh, no. Yeah, he sold it online. And he goes, yeah, it ups the value. I'm like, okie dokie. So, the unique signings drive value up, which you're probably an expert at that, but I'm not. That's still kind of new to me.
Well, something new to all of us is the idea that John Cena is no longer an in-ring competitor. We know that he finished up in December having his last match, and we thought that was the end of that maybe we wouldn't see him again in WWE, but we saw him for WrestleMania. And now we're hearing you're going to see him at the next pay-per-view too. It's this weekend. It's Backlash, and it is in Tampa. But John Cena has announced that he is going to be in the house. He wrote, "It's official. I'm headed to WWE Backlash after months of planning and effort. I am so excited to break some history-making news. I can't promise it'll be perfect, but I can promise it will change the WWE experience for superstars and fans. See you live Saturday in Tampa or at home on the ESPN app. I think this is just the WWE club thing that they're trying to do. I could be wrong. I know there's a lot of fans online who I saw, clapping back about, I thought Cena was only reserved for special moments and it was only worthy that he would be back at WrestleMania. Or I thought when I bought a ticket to his last match, we'd never see him again. As a reminder, it's in Tampa. He doesn't have to travel. He just jumps in his Honda manual and drives over, does it, and he's back home in 20 minutes, I'm sure. It's a no-brainer to leverage, hometown superstar talent. What do you expect this announcement to be if you were a betting man, Jeff?
I like they call it WWE World, the VIP club. It's got to be that.
If they call it WWE Club, they've already announced it's called Club. Oh, WWE Club.
The club. Join the club. Okay.
It's supposed to be a premium paid membership program offering fans exclusive benefits, including 24-hour ticket pre-sales, exclusive merch, behind-the-scenes content, and a community forum.
On location.
It's WWE.com/club WWE. I don't know that that's it, but it does feel like that's probably part of what the announcement is.
He would,
especially when he says, I don't promise it'll be perfect. Like that sounds like a rollout of something, right?
Yeah. And I think he's the guy to do it with that brand.
Yes.
He's as blue chipper as they get is what JR would said. But so you've got the commentary that there's a few people clapping back. You think people would be clapping back if he had gone over in that finish? Yep. I'm going back to that. It just feels like the tailwind. Yes, some people loved it. Some people hated it. If he would have gone over in the last match, would they have hated it? I don't know. I don't want to go back under that filthy, dirty bridge, but it's interesting that that happened in December, January, February, March. So almost 90 days. Well, I don't know when they announced him for Mania, but I mean, he hasn't been gone. It's not at all. Like Brock and Roman take that much time off. So he retired from the ring, but it's still, I don't know. Anyway, it's monetization. Those memes or videos that are going around on TikTok and stuff like that. Several have been sent to me, Conrad, that I don't know what the title is. If TK, they're throwing in advertisements everywhere. It's like that is the current. Wouldn't you say that's the biggest current punchline on the IWC right now? The TKO monetization and putting ads everywhere.
Oh yeah, lots of people are having fun with that, and I understand it. It felt like a shift in the way fans perceived it. And maybe WrestleMania was the tipping point where they felt like, hey, maybe it went a little overboard. Well, this weekend, they're going to be trying their hand at a PLE again. They're back on ESPN. They've announced
this weekend. Yeah, that's right. No, my days are, yes, correct. Damn.
Yeah, it's this weekend. And we know that we've got The Miz and Kit Wilson against Danhausen and a mystery partner. I don't think a lot of people would have suggested that this would have been the case after the debut. Danhausen continues to be a force. We also have got Io Sky and Asuka, Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker getting back in the ring after a long absence. He made his return at WrestleMania. It's going to be a big test, I think, this weekend for Braun. This is probably as high up the card as he's been in a singles match like this. It is I would guess the co-main event. Trick Williams and Sami Zayn are going to be in action for the U.S. title, but I specifically wanted to ask you, Jeff, have you had a chance to see any of the Gingerbread Man, and what do you think?
Gingerbread Man, come again?
Okay, never mind. Our main event, Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this match being made has drawn a lot of speculation and a lot of people asking a lot of questions about, hey, what's really going on behind the scenes? And I don't pretend to have all of the information, but I do want us to talk about the match and why it maybe has been made, or, our fans may be trying to read into this a little too much or what have you. But before I do, just on the surface, what do you think about Jacob Fatu relatively early in his career? being thrust into the main event, challenging Roman Reigns for the world title. Is it too soon, in your opinion?
Like the first blush test, first reaction test. When I just looked at, I'll just say the graphic. I'd have heard about this, but you showing the graphic, or Brother Silva showing the graphic, didn't it just kind of? Well, I'm asking you, but I'm going to tell you my thoughts. It feels like it's just like, wait a minute, Roman just won the championship.
Yes.
He's our brand new champion.
2 weeks ago.
Why are they doing this to Jacob on he's really early in the build. Like, I think it's way early now. Where they're going with it, it's
Right.
we're going to get into all the obvious and obviously some not so obvious that we'll just kind of rumor and innuendo and try to piece it together. Chess, well, how are they playing chess? But my initial gut reaction, and I'll throw it back at you is damn, why are they doing that to Jacob? Because if he wins, I feel like it's even way, way too soon. And if he loses, he's kind of going to be in that no man's land, because I just think Roman is at that level and had a hell of a match, man. He's straight up head of the table, huge baby face. He's a Florida boy walking out in Tampa. Man, that's a tough spot for Jacob to be in.
They're doing a non-finish, right? Gun to your head, you'd pick non-finish, right?
Well, okay, I agree, but I think that does even more damage to Jacob.
How so?
A non-finish, are the people going to be satisfied? To me, gun to my head. Hey, Jeff, what would you do in this finish? Probably wouldn't book it, but I don't know all the ins and outs of what they got to. Okay, just Jeff, answer the freaking question. What would you do the finish? I'd put Roman over, period. He doesn't have to squash him by any stretch, but have as good a match and give Jacob about as much as you possibly can. And then a distract from the right
Usos or whatever.
Kind of heel and put Roman over. I think they'll go with that, Conrad.
Here's the question. I know this is silly, but I just want to ask, in your opinion, who's the babyface, who's the heel here?
That I probably should have thrown that at the very top. Me and you get in these conversations, and I think the assumption, me and you would have already had that discussion, but we're on the pod and we're rolling. That was my first immediate thing is Jacob is this dynamic and he's really got the unique kick-ass babyface persona that I think they can monetize the hell out of, get rolling. But you ain't going to, Roman is the legacy player at this point, and coming off the match that he just came off of, he's definitely the babyface.
Roman certainly was positioned as the babyface, and he was defending his dad after Punk, made some sort of remark about "I'm going to bury you next to your dad" or whatever. So clearly, that's a heel type promo. But then when Punk says, "Hey, TKO needs to lower the ticket prices," well, that's a babyface promo. Maybe these are old, antiquated ideas that you need it to be black and white. I know lots of people embrace the gray, but I will say, it's not gray. Jacob Fatu got a definitive win over Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania on ESPN on the free side. So a lot of people saw that. It's a big opportunity. What are they going to do with it this weekend, I think, is the real test.
And I don't want to bog this down because I know you want to keep rolling, but that kind of conversation of, I think you just said a lot of people defend the gray. And I can hear creative room conversations to go back. And I'm like, life is shades of grace. Not everybody, there's yin and the yang. There's good in all of bad, and there's bad in all of good. But for storytelling purposes, to create the emotion, I think you need to have more black and white as opposed to more gray. And I'm talking about let's take wrestling out of it. Watching sports and people, Hollywood, but okay, you can use Hollywood, you can use a drama, or you can use sports. Because I think if you continue to use this, there's a home team and away team, and so you don't really have people. Some people can watch the same ball game. Me and Conrad, we watched Tennessee Alabama game, and we're going to see it completely through different lenses. But in my eyes, I hate freaking Bama and everything. Bear Bryant can take that silly hat and wipe his ass with it. That is blasphemous words to you. But with that being said, we're emotionally attached to this. I think the exact same thing, you've got to kind of create that emotion. And how do you do that with Roman and Jacob? Because they're from the same family. There's just, I'll just say this, Connie, way too much gray in there for me.
Well, there's nothing gray about Quo. I'm always looking for ways to stop leaving money on the table. And here's a big one: missed calls, because a missed call is money out the door. Quo helps you and your team share one business number, reply faster, and stay on top of every customer conversation so you never miss an opportunity to connect. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. It's spelled Quo, a smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is, in fact, the #1 business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews. It's built for how modern teams work. And that's why more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams, rely on Quo to stay connected, professional, and consistently reachable. Quo works wherever you are, right from an app on your phone or your computer, and it lets you keep your existing number. You can add new numbers or teammates in minutes. You can sync your CRM. You can rely on seamless routing and call flows as your business scales. This means your entire team can handle calls and texts from one shared number. No more missed messages or disconnected conversations. Everyone sees the full thread, making replies faster, and customers feel genuinely cared for. You see, Quo isn't just a phone system, it's a smart system. Quo's AI automatically will log the calls, generate summaries, and highlight next steps so nothing gets lost. It can even qualify leads or respond after hours, ensuring your business stays responsive even when you're finally offline. It's super easy. Calls, texts, voicemails, transcripts, and contact details are all live in one clean view with full context at your fingertips. Your team communicates faster, stays aligned, and delivers a more personal experience. And I want to tell you personally, my wife and I own a few businesses. She's been using Quo. I helped set it up last year. We're actually making the transition on the mortgage side to Quo right now too, because I've seen, hey, this thing's phenomenal. You want to talk about taking the guesswork out, maximizing your dollars, better servicing your customers, because customers respond best to speed. Anybody who's ever been in sales knows that. The only thing that kills your deal is time. Well, make this the season where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Go do what I did. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/myworld. That's quo.com/myworld. Quo. No missed calls, no missed opportunities. Jeff, let's talk about an opportunity, because it does feel like there is one this weekend. We sort of buried the lead.
Uh-oh.
A lot of rumor and innuendo. What's going to happen with the world title? And I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're probably saying to yourself, didn't Roman Reigns just win that belt like 2 weeks ago? What do you mean they're talking about making a switch? Well, yeah. On the 3-week anniversary, there's rumor and innuendo that Jacob Fatu is going to win the world title this weekend. And you may say to yourself, how does that make any sense? Well, here's some context. All of a sudden, after Roman Reigns was advertised for all the June Raw dates, he is no longer advertised for the June Raw dates. And fans have jumped at this. And a lot of the reason they're jumping at this are the cuts that we've heard about. And there's some talent who've been asked to reposition their contract, renegotiate their contract, AKA take less money. And now this has borne all kinds of crazy speculation. Over the weekend, I can't tell you, more than a dozen texts from people in and outside the business asking, hey, is Roman really leaving WWE? I don't pretend to have any inside information, but I do want to make sure everybody understands this. The June 1st Raw is in Italy. The June 18th Raw is in France. The June 22nd Raw is in London. And the Saudi Arabian show, Night of Champions, is on the 27th. So those are your June dates. There's only one in there that's domestic. That's June 15th in Baltimore. I don't know. I have no inside information, but I don't know that I buy the idea that WWE is going to Roman and asking him to take a pay cut. I think it probably is hinged more on, is he on the Saudi Arabia show? And I do not know that he's on the poster for that event, but I know that Dave Meltzer has said that he doesn't believe he's supposed to be a part of the Saudi show. So maybe it's just, hey, we're not going to burn our dates if it's not going to lead to a pay-per-view. Or maybe it's just Roman saying, you know what? I'm going to stay home with the kids this summer. I'm not going to do international travel back and forth. My understanding is once upon a time, Jeff, because Roman only flew private, that adding his name to a house show would mean instantly that house show was no longer profitable because there's just such a cost associated with his per appearance fee and his private airfare travel that it would just ruin a P&L. When you hear that Roman was advertised for these dates and now he's not, and there is what a lot of people consider an awfully fast world title shot for Jacob Fatu this weekend. Does 2 + 2 = 5 to you, or how do you read it, Jeff?
Buddy, see, gotta love my world because it gives me and you an opportunity, because I immediately went to, okay, they advertised him, bait and switch. Does that come into play? Who knows? But they want to move tickets. I don't know how long ago the on sale was, how long he's been advertised. Was he?
By the way, I don't mean to cut you off. I just Googled it, wanted to double check. The Night of the Champions poster at the very top, Cody and Roman. Cody and Roman are prominently featured at the very top of the Night of the Champions, which is the Saudi Arabian pay-per-view on the 27th. So the first graphic that came out also featured Roman Reigns prominently there. So for Meltzer to say he's not on that card means that Meltzer has some sort of inside information that let him know that, hey, he's off the Raw shows. We've seen those advertisements change. He's also off the Saudi show. I don't pretend to know what's going on with the Saudi show, but the speculation for years was that, hey, they just wanted the big stars to the point that it didn't even matter if they were alive. They just knew they were big stars. Send us the Ultimate Warrior and Yokozuna. I don't know if that's real or not, but the idea being that one of the biggest stars was on the poster for Saudi, and now Meltzer's saying he's not going to be on that card, and he's magically not advertised for any of these Raw dates. I find it interesting.
Conrad, man, oh man. Well, we don't have to hit time cues. Can I ask you something just to go real back in your time machine?
Sure.
John Cena's decision to retire.
Yes.
Refresh our memory. How did that come about? Was that a John idea? Was it hey, I'm ready to tap. I'm going to call it a career. Do you know how that came to be?
The story that we've heard is that he decided that he wanted to finish his career, and it was his decision to focus more on Hollywood and do one farewell tour. And the report that we got was that he was fully committed to doing the old WWE schedule, which most people know meant he's going to work around 200 live events a year. And WWE, as the story goes, said, "Nah, we don't need that. We just need these." And he hit a lot of the big markets, certainly the international markets. I mean, you want to talk about a white hot crowd. I've never seen anything like it in some of those markets where the merch was just overwhelming.
Yep.
And I'm sure it checked a lot of boxes financially. But yeah, he made the announcement at Elimination Chamber a year ahead of time saying, hey, he's going to put himself in that spot. And that'll be his final year in wrestling.
And old sayings don't get to be old sayings unless they're true.
Right.
The one that came to my mind is hindsight's 2020. Looking at it through the lens that we sit here today, did old John sit back and go, I'm not dealing with BKM, pal. I'm dealing with a new set of owners. So how do I maximize John Cena's brand name the very best? Why don't I be proactive and say, hey, I'm going to go all in and let's make it absolutely as much money as I possibly can on merch and everything that goes with it. And let's just blow this bad boy up, because there is no doubt in my mind they are not renewing me at what I want or my value, because they've got the Netflix deal. They've got this deal in place. I don't think my pay is going to go up. Matter of fact, my buddy over here at UFC, he's already give me the Iggy multiple times in this story and that story. So going all the way back, and now Cena and kind of that whole deal. And I'm not talking about the finish, but that year. And now here we're coming up on what you asked me, the Roman situation, and he was on the graphic. Now he magically wasn't. And I know we're probably gonna. I know you, Conrad. I don't know you as good as Megan, but damn sure don't know you as good as Larry and Dave. But the Brock situation. So, Connie, it sure walks like a duck, and it sure talks like a duck. And I think I can hear it quacking. I think we got us a duck here, Conrad.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
Well, I just think it could be Roman wanting the summer off, but if he was originally advertised, I don't think TKO is in the bait and switch. Also, here's the thing that it doesn't add up to me. If they made, and Nate looks like all the different ads and printing money, what do they have to do to meet their numbers, to meet expectations? That's what I don't know, because AJ and Brock, and you're hearing Roman and New Day and all this kind of stuff. And, the production guy that got let go, just all the different stuff going on. Are they really in this big a slashing mode that they don't want to spend the money to send Roman to Europe? I guess what I'm saying is, I think you said 4. I think there were 4 Raws internationally, and then Saudi. So let's just say 5 private charters.
There's 3. So you got Turin, Italy, Paris, France, and London.
That's
So
3.
there's 3, and then of course Saudi would be 4. Baltimore is not nearly as big of a deal. I hope everybody, when they're in Baltimore, goes to Jimmy's Famous Seafood. That'd be worth the flight by itself.
4 international private charters.
Pretty expendy.
Yeah, we're knocking on $1 million. That's big money. Appearance fees and dates and all of that kind of stuff. It's real easy to walk down the hall and say, "Hey boys, y'all don't have Roman for the month of June," and walk back out. And it's just, okay, here's $1 million to the bottom line. That's kind of, that's at first that's where my brain went. That it wasn't a bait and switch. They just looked at it and said, "Hey man,
It's cost cutting."
Or cost cutting, yeah, managing expenses.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm not trying to frame it negatively. If you're trying to run a P&L,
yes,
and you want Roman Reigns there, you have to say, okay, what is his contract value? So if he's, let's just pretend he's getting $15 million a year for 100 dates. That's not the number, but let's just pretend. Well, you take 100, you divide it into 15 million. There's his per appearance fee. That's sort of prorated, if you will.
Yep.
And then you have to figure out what his airfare travel is going to be. And Jeff, if you were a betting man, how much do you reckon from South Florida to hoof it on over to London? How much is that going to cost on a private jet?
I am not in the aviation business, but I got a cousin who is. When we hear about gas prices going up at the pump,
yes,
it ain't nothing compared to jet fuel.
Ask Spirit Airlines.
That you took. You can kind of. I don't think they managed the deal, but it was certainly up at the top of the list. But anyway, when you take jet fuel and pilots and that, Jesus, that is so damn expensive. And look, Conrad, when was I there? 22. I am well aware of just what numbers were allocated to a house show Roman appearance. So, we're talking another contract and international and gas prices. It really probably became a pretty easy decision, but it's reflective across the board. It goes back to 90-day master. It's no longer what's best for the brand.
Now, to be clear, what Jeff is saying when he says 90-day master, he's talking about WWE stock, specifically the TKO stock. Are you going to meet or expect or exceed your expectations? They're all setting some sort of an expectation, and the stock trades on that. And then you've got to come out and report your actuals. And now we're going to compare your actuals to your forecast. So it's kind of a catch 22. You don't want to report too good of numbers, but you don't want to report too bad of numbers. You kind of need to maintain status quo. But seeing a talent advertised and then not advertised matters. Maybe it does come down to just private air travel. We're not sure. Here's what I am sure of. If you go to WWE.com and you try to go find tickets for an event coming near you, what you'll find when you get to the Night of the Champions site is a graphic for the Night of the Champions, but there's no talent. But look what it says underneath, Jeff. Featured superstar information for this event is not yet available. And this is happening on May 4th. So we're about 7 weeks out from the pay-per-view. But if you actually click the link and you go to the website where if you were actually going to buy tickets to go to the Saudi show, take a look at what that looks like, Jeff. There he is. Featured pretty doggone prominently right at the top with Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns. So listen, we know that there's going to be a private jet going, the company jet for sure, and maybe one other. So maybe it makes sense for a monster event like Saudi when you know you've got a big guarantee. So we'll see what happens. Is Meltzer correct? He's not going to be on that show, or are we going to see something crazy happening with the booking and maybe see a new world champion this weekend? If you were a betting man, and you had to handicap whether or not Jacob was going to win the world title, would it be a plus or minus? How would you do that?
I still going Roman over. I don't think they alter plans. I mean, Conrad, are there any more frame of reference? And I don't want to call it because I think we do it a disservice when you say old school mentality. It's, it's like the game of basketball. I'm talking to my buddy. The game of basketball is to score more points than the opposing team. It's just that simple. But I do think we have said it over and over and over. When you are the Aryan group or businessmen, they're going to meet their numbers. That's their job for people who have invested in them. I don't say they don't care about the wrestling fan, but they are second in priority. And so a little bit of a hiccup here and there creatively, it's not going to change anything. I don't think they look at it that ESPN is fixed revenue. It's all fixed revenue. I don't know that I've ever heard, please correct me if I'm wrong. Have they ever heard of a live ticket number in Saudi? Like, hey, we sold X amount of tickets and created this much revenue in Saudi. So as far as the hard ticket sales, they obviously don't need him or anybody else to sell tickets in that market. So there you have it. I think it's pretty safe to say it is a managing the P&L decision.
Well, I can't wait to see what actually happens, but here's what I know is guaranteed to happen. You're going to have a great time with our friends at Blue Chew. The future of erectile function is here. Blue Chew Gold is changing the way millions of men are having sex in 2026. The new arousal boosting formula combines passion and performance into one tablet and dissolves under your tongue for super fast onset. There's no more waiting for a pill to kick in, no more moments ruined by performance anxiety, just the results you want when you want them. Most ED meds only focus on blood flow, but Blue Chew Gold goes further by combining 2 ingredients for blood flow with 2 for mental arousal and connection. So you're not just physically ready, you're actually in the mood. This type of innovation is why Blue Chew Gold is the #1 brand in erectile function. The process is simple and it's all online. Get started today at bluechew.com and go for the gold. Turbocharge your love life and make it easy to get hard. Discover your options at bluechew.com, and we've got a special deal for our listeners. Right now, when you buy 2 months of Blue Chew Gold, you get the 3rd for free with the promo code MyWorld. That's promo code MyWorld. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. Man, I'm pretty fired up about this because there's a lot of chatter this week, Jeff, about New Day. I'm sure you've seen the headlines. Kofi Kingston, one of the more beloved and tenured superstars on the current WWE roster, got a release. So did his pal, Xavier Woods. We knew they made up 2/3 of the OG New Day. Of course, along the way, Big E wins the world title. So does Kofi Kingston. A lot of people still count that as one of the more special moments in wrestling history. Xavier Woods himself became king of the ring, and you're obviously very familiar with Xavier Woods. Once upon a time, he was a standout as Consequences Creed and TNA, Atlanta Boy, and they've all done really, really well. I mean, certainly the most successful tag team in WWE history when you look at their longest reign and that record. And I mean, a lot of people consider them to be at the top of the heap of the WWE tag team division. But in fairness, they have not been featured as prominently in recent months as maybe they once were. Well, as the story goes, Jeff, and again, we're just reading this from the internet, and neither you nor I, as far as I know, have spoken to either fellow. But as the story goes, they signed new deals last year in 2025, and those deals were supposed to go through 2030. We had heard that a lot of talent were getting locked down with 5-year deals, New Day among them. And apparently, these were 7-figure deals annually for each talent. And that's not a surprise when you consider just how much this company has grown and how much revenue they're dragging in. And the folks who run this company made like 60 some odd $1 million in the calendar year 2025. So they're printing money up there, Jeff. But as the story goes, the New Day was asked to renegotiate their contracts. Something along the lines of, hey, fellas, greatly appreciate y'all. Thank you for all you've done. But it's come down from on high that every department at TKO has to cut expenses. And unfortunately, you're part of that. Here's what we'd like to offer instead. And they received an offer for less money than the one they signed last year. And I want to add some context here, Jeff. No one has told me that TKO had to cut costs across the board and it's not talent specific, but we did see a report that a guy who worked in the television division who'd been there since 2001, he was unceremoniously released last week. So after 25 years of working with the company, WWE, he's shown the door. So I don't think it's unique to talent. I think it's probably across the board. I feel comfortable in saying that because it does feel like, hey, we're trying to make sure that we're reporting as good a numbers as we can, as Jeff mentioned earlier, on that 90-day cycle. And cutting these costs is going to be able to something we can show for the rest of this year, not just this quarter, but ongoing. But I got to say, optic wise, PR wise, this New Day thing is interesting. Because once upon a time, if WWE came to you and wanted you to take a pay cut, you kind of didn't have any options, or so a lot of talent may have felt. Where else can you go make big money? Now there is an AEW out there. And we know that a lot of tag teams on the AEW side of the fence have been not too quiet about wanting to have that match. Speaking specifically about the Young Bucks and a whole lot of others. What do you make of this? That Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston were asked to take a pay cut and they said, thanks, but no thanks. We're out of here. And in less than 90 days, they'll be available to pop up somewhere else. Jeff, you've been around this business a long time. How does this news strike you?
Well, Conrad. It doesn't surprise me at all, based solely off who Ari and Team's master is, the 90-day cycle. The flip side of that is anybody moving forward that signs a contract, they ought to get it notarized, and it doesn't need to say county official or whatever the notary and date and all this. It just needs to say nobody is safe and notarize it. Because, hey, man, we're going to sign this deal. Don't even think about what we did to New Day. Don't you dare bring that up, because we have the right to do that. That's the you kept referring to optics, and I'm assuming you're putting that as one big kind of pile of mess. But from Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, all the top, Charlotte, all the way down to anybody who gets on board and is happy to have the spot in NXT, they know that you're only as good as your last paycheck, because at any time they could come and renegotiate. And Tony Khan is the opposite. You can kind of look at the history of he signs a deal. He doesn't release folks. With that being said, I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs, but he lets the deals, and that at the very top of, man, I go back to that letter that my dad wrote Bob Carter. I go back to my dad. Maybe the single reason that really pushed him into wrestling full time. He's an executive for the Murray, Ohio Manufacturing Company. He was in his late 20s, and his boss was early 40s and had about 20 years in with the company, and comes in to his office one day and says, "I just got fired. You're taking my spot." My dad knew he wasn't ready for it and said, that'll happen to me 15 years. And that pushed him full time into it. My grandmother's wonderful words of wisdom: "Jeff, you can wrestle. Don't become a wrestler." It all kind of goes in, because, Conrad, I am really, really, really surprised when I think of, and I don't want to get into the comparison game, but I just look at, my dad had Pat Malone, who was a hooker, and that's a shooter. A hooker was the real term. Different guys that had, long tenured fellas that were around, Gurria, Goulet, Arnold Skolin, different folks that had put in a lot of time in the wrestling industry, Vince and the Crockett's and different territories. And I know it's not the same. I get it. I get it. I really do. We're corporate wrestling and all that, but that world has radically changed, because Kofi and Xavier, and Conrad, maybe throw a couple of names out here. I'm going to let you give it a second to think of it, but you talk about model employees.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about, they can be heels, they can be baby faces, they make all the dates, they do this, they do that, but a real positive attitude to the culture. And I don't want to say locker room, because it's so much bigger than, when you're dealing backstage with pre-tapes and you have, an international request. "Hey man, can you come in here and read 10 liners?" Kofi, and that's what made them part of it so valuable. They didn't say no in a very respectful way. They did the little things, and the little things add up and really become the big things. And they gave everything to that company. I'm really happy for them that, they looked themselves in the eye. I would imagine the conversation got down to that, Kofi and Consequences, and looked at each other and said, "Hey man, let's go peddle our wares elsewhere. We're at this stage of our career. Let's go." And who knows? I hope they, and they're going to have a lot of tailwind behind them, but they have done it all. And man, couldn't be two finer gentlemen. I'll say gentlemen, but it is to me, it's a warning shot that if you didn't know it, now you know it. Nobody's safe.
Nobody's safe. What a statement.
Well, I mean, do you disagree?
I don't disagree. I think it's been proven. I mean, I'm not trying to bang on TKO here.
No.
But your point about, and I know that Tony has his critics and AEW has their critics, and a lot of the criticism we hear a lot of time is, yeah, but he's got more wrestlers than he has guys he can use. That's bullshit. Let me reverse engineer that for you. Can you believe that he's overpaying? Can you believe that he's creating more jobs than are necessary? Can you believe that he's helping feed more families? Like, I'm not making the comparison, and I know Eric wouldn't want me to make the comparison, but this was a knock on Eric Bischoff way back when, and I never understood it. Like, for as long as I've, watched the wrestling space and understood it a little bit, I've heard that it's office versus the boys. So here's the office, and then here, do you want to be one of the boys or do you want to be office? We've all heard that as fans. We've all heard that narrative, but somehow it gets painted with an ugly stick when a guy like Eric Bischoff or a guy like Tony Khan does it, because they'll come out and they'll say, "Can you believe Eric Bischoff signed Stevie Ray to make X number of dollars? It's ridiculous." Process what you're saying right there. Are you advocating for the office? Are you saying that, hey, we're paying the talent too much, we should fuck them a little more? Like, do you hear what you're saying? Like, are you really for the industry? Like, it's such a stupid argument. And the idea that people are saying, yeah, but Tony signs these guys, pays them a bunch of money, and then doesn't use them. You're upset at the way he spends his money, and he's passing blessings to individual families. I think people get caught off guard with this, but this is not just a traditional sports endeavor. These are guys who are taking that deposit they get every week or month or however it comes, and they're paying for insurance and school tuition and car payments and kids insurance and food. It's an income, it's a living. And the idea that we're saying, oh, we should pay him less is just weird. Why does he keep paying so many guys? Wait, what? Like, Eric Bischoff was an advocate for the boys. And no matter how you slice it and dice it, so is Tony Khan. And the evidence is there in what Jeff said, but stopped short. I'll say it. I don't give a shit. I don't work there. Tony Khan does not fire people. Now, there are certain exceptions, but you got to look for them, and they're their own story, and you know what we're talking about. He lets contracts expire. So if your biggest knock is when you sign a contract with Tony Khan, he honors his end, but sometime creatively, you may just wind up eating and catering. Let me make another equivalency for you. That's not unlike an NFL or a college head coach who gets fired, who gets to sit at home and collect a fat check. That is the dream job. Like, you're trading some of your, every time you wrestle, from my understanding, I've heard this phrase used before, you have a bump card and you can only take so many. Well, you're not taking a bunch of bumps and you're making a bunch of money. It's a great quality of life. But the idea that people sort of dunk on Tony for that, I think, is asinine. But at the same time, those same people, Jeff, they're going to say, oh, well, the last place they need to go is New Day. They won't be used there. Do you hear yourself? They just lost their income. If they can replace the income or as close as they can get to it, why wouldn't they do that, Jeff?
Here's what, and all of that is completely valid. And you're the one who's kind of, from time to time, you've said it on here in very nice, flattering words. But when I sit back and look, and I'm just going to go over the last 20 years, and I'm going into my TNA days, and you have AEW, and now, TNA, and I'm not going to ebb and flow, and I'm not going to take them out of the equation. But Conrad, I sat in the seat, and we've had, is my master ratings, is my, back in the TNA days, master to ratings or pay-per-view buys. All that being said, the finite, and I mean shoestring budgets that we worked off of, and then I'm going to go back to the territory days that my dad had to run a P&L, but the greatest luxury of all in the creative process is to have an abundance of talent. When you look at Major League Baseball and the way they have taken over their systems, you look at, high single, low single, single A ball is pretty much all developmental, quote unquote. It's the NXTs of the world. Double A, Triple A, and Major League, that is your folks that you're hoping to win a championship with, because you have injuries. Some guys just aren't going to play better. Some guys get the yips. Some pitchers burn out. They're just blah, 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 blah. Same within professional football. They got guys that hold clipboards that make millions. But man, oh man, if that QB1 goes down, he steps right in. And you're telling me all those millions wouldn't want it when he can throw a pass to win the game? You just look at it. So to me, Conrad, you took the full slant of the boys. If
Yes.
you will, I'm going to take running a promotion. When you have this is what blows my mind about TKO, in that I get it, man. Hey guys, you've got to meet your 90-day numbers, but boy, oh boy, Conrad, you just said it. They're printing money and 60 million this and nobody, I mean, they are making a fortune. When you look at the asset of the New Day, or we'll call it a roster that, guys sit home, and I saw Drew McIntyre said he trains like on a per match deal. And I think he had some things that I didn't agree with on house shows, and I relate it to the music business. We can go there in a minute, but the ability to have a roster where you can give guys rest. I'm not talking about injury rest. I'm talking about put them on the shelf. I'm a part of that, but you put them on the shelf. And yes, I'm way past my prime. I'm not saying that, but let's just take a guy in their mid-30s that can have a great run for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then all of a sudden he loses a match, loses another match, loses another match. Boom, leave him off for 3 months, leave him off for 4 months. Whatever you need to do, when they come back, they'll have that much impactful because, Conrad, the very fundamental, and I mean this, I'm sure old Corny could lay into this kind of stuff. The territory business, and you can relate that to sitcoms, movie, hell, football teams, sporting teams. When you have a crop, Tom Brady, man, I read his weekly emails. When you talk about the nucleus of teams he had, it was this guy and a receiver, but man, a new crop of offensive linemen and defensive linemen and special teams and all this kind of stuff to really make the industry. And I'm talking specifically about the professional wrestling business. In the territory days, you had Von Erichs and others. In Tennessee, you had Lawler Dundee and others. In the Carolinas, you had Dusty Flair, Rock and Roll, and others. In every territory, you had the ability to have your main stars. How do you keep them main stars? Turnover, 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 turnover. So I believe Tony Khan's philosophy on booking is, I'll call it brilliant, because you can hear all the pot shots and the nonsense and the BS. That's not understanding the core of the business at all. Not at all. Because there's going to come a time when the NXT tag team champions and then maybe the SmackDown tag team champions, and then that might not click. And then you may have an injury over here in Raw. And then these guys you need to be split up and go in singles. And then you're going to go, man, we need a tag team that can go out on SmackDown and have a 3-segment match and tear the house down. And we've got to get these young kids over. Oh, no, New Day's not on that roster. Oh, no, this guy's not on this roster. Oh, no. I mean, I just think there is such a value in having a deep roster and deep bench that I think the very core of the IWC or people that knock it, they just don't fundamentally understand how the real business of creating emotion with talent is truly arrived at. You've got to have talent that turns over, and you can't ship them out to territories there and there. So where do you ship them? Look at Tony. We got relationships with CMLL and New Japan. He'll work with all kind of folks. But as far as Dynamite and Collision, premium live event, Dynamite, Collision, premium live event, there's a reason at AEW that people go, well, I can knock them about this and I can knock them about this, but son of a bitch, ain't no doubt in my mind, Dynasty was better than Mania. I mean, Conrad, you said that on here, but it goes with, I think, the freshness and the core foundation of booking cards that feel like, shit, I've never seen this before. Now, I know this champion and I know this challenger and this guy, but man, look at this whole 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 matches. And that's where I think, and I haven't read much, but I'll just say, I think that's the whole thing that people are missing on all of the kind of the TKO set of circumstances with New Day. You're going to let them go in really, really good times? Your legacy tag team over, like, how much money did they save, you think, Conrad, hypothetically?
I'm glad you said that, because that's where I wanted to go next. Like,
it's the real savings.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a fair question, especially when you take a look at, how much, they were paid last year. Mark Shapiro made $42.6 million last year. Now, I'm not sure how many of our listeners bought a WWE ticket last year to see Mark Shapiro. I could venture a guess. But let's pretend, I don't know, but let's pretend that Kofi and Xavier Woods were both offered $500,000 less each. I don't know the numbers. Let's say it was $1 million and then they came back at $500,000. It's $1 million annual savings. So if he would have had that savings last year, Mark Shapiro would have made $43.6 million. And I'm just saying $1 million one way. What are we talking about? And even if it were two, if you were taking $1 million from each guy, and I'm sure by the time, they take the release, it is that. I can't imagine that either had less than $1 million minimum, which is just absurd, by the way, when you take a look at how the pay scale has grown versus the effort that you have to put out, like the taxing, not just the bumps in the ring, but the travel and the time away from your family and all of that relative to the number of dates. The talent today enjoys so many blessings, not being critical of that at all. But to your point, this is a fraction of a fraction in the scheme of things. But I understand that when you're trying to save money, every little bit helps. But I just worry about the optics of this one. This feels like you lose a lot of goodwill here, and there may have been smarter corners to cut. But for whatever reason, New Day now find themselves on the outside looking in.
Do they have a 90-day?
What's that?
They have a 90-day.
Yes. So they'll be ready at the end of July. You know, you figure the end of May, the end of June, the end of July.
Is this an unreal story?
I can't imagine that it is.
I was going to say that about, anyway, go ahead.
I do want to mention Kofi's 44. Not that that's old, just pointing it out. He's 44. And we know how beloved he is behind the scenes. So I think there's a lot of intangibles. I think there's a lot of PR wins. I think there's a lot of great matches. You know, the talent are advocating for it. But the knock we hear, the criticism we hear at times about AEW is, oh, they've got too big a roster. I've yet to hear one person say that we can't make room for New Day. Like, this feels like this is universally, like the entire wrestling community has their fingers crossed on this one. Am I wrong on that?
Well, and that's, you know, let's not pretend to, or I'm not going to pretend to understand how, how the IWC at times, I love it. It's the tribalism. Where is it gonna, where does that flavor in? Where does that factor in, should I say? But I think at the end of the day, whether you're, I call it, you know, hardcore wrestling or internet wrestling or just wrestling fans, those guys to me, and that's why I just respect them so much, they've built up equity in their actions. Like, you just don't have the kind of success they've had over a long period of time unless you really know how to do business right. We will see.
Well, something else we're going to see is how great you feel with Factor. I know that old Double J is loving him some Factor. And here's the scene, man. Hunger strikes. It's the end of the day. You're exhausted. There's healthy stuff to eat in the fridge and pantry that you should be making, but you just don't have it in you to go make it. For a lot of us, eating healthy isn't a willpower problem. It's a setup problem. That is, until you find out about Factor. With Factor, you're going to hit your nutrition goals this season without the planning, the grocery runs, or the cooking. Factor has meals built around your goals. Whether you're targeting weight loss or overall nutrition, maybe you're looking for more protein or even just GLP-1 support. For strength and workout recovery, you should check out Factor's Muscle Pro collection. That's what Double J's been rocking lately. Every meal is crafted with functional ingredients. Double J's only going to do it if there's lean proteins, there's colorful veggies, there's whole foods, there's healthy fats. Factor actually bans more than 175 ingredients. You heard me. They've banned over 175 ingredients. No artificial colors, no sweeteners, no high fructose corn syrup, no refined seed oils, just nutrient-dense food. And tell me, your body will feel the difference. It's always fresh. It's never frozen. There's over 100 different rotating weekly meals, including globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian. So there's always something new to look forward to. Try the newly launched ready-to-eat salads with vibrant ingredients. And you're going to love that there's over 70 different add-ons to round out your nutrition. You got things like green juices to peanut butter energy bites. Maybe what's best of all, though, you're going to love this. It's ready in 2 minutes. You see, Factor shops, preps, cooks, and then they deliver straight to your door, so you have more time for everything else you love this spring. Head on over right now to factormeals.com/myworld50 off. Use that promo code myworld50 and you'll get 50% off and free daily greens per box. With this subscription only while supplies last until September 27th, 2026. See website for details. That's factormeals.com/myworld50 and use the promo code myworld50.
Quick little testimonial here, Connie. I'm just going to lay it out right here. Me and the Queen, Miss Karen, we were at the ball fields this weekend, and we were talking about going home in between games. And I said, don't worry about it. I got Factor meals. And she said, no, you've already had both the salmon. I said, nope, there's a steak tucked up under there. She said, you hid it from us. I said, I sure did. So Factor, they've got new egg bites out, but I'm going with the steak and the salmon. It's great. They got a new protein, vanilla cream shake, 32 grams of protein. Folks, me and Karen have probably turned on, I don't know, 10, 12 people just in this little area. I'm not talking about Hendersonville, just kind of in our neighborhood. They see the Factor truck and everything that goes with it. Folks, we advertise quite a few products on here. I won't get into this, but this is one I can tell you my testimonial doesn't come from the heart. It comes right from the gut. Folks, promo code MyWorld50 off. You cannot go wrong.
SaveWithConrad.com.
Yeah, I'm Justin Ruffin from Knoxville, Tennessee. What got me to Save with Conrad was the 83 Weeks podcast. I really wasn't thinking about getting rid of any debt. I just wanted to cash out some equity in the house to do remodeling. But I did both, so that was pretty awesome. Worked out great. Redid the foyer, built pantry space, and there was little odds and ends when I first bought the house that I wanted to take care of, and we were able to take care of it. So, yeah, paid off 2 cars and some credit card debt. So probably all in all, get $30,000 in that. And then I got some $30,000 more equity out of the house, and still plenty of equity left over. So payment's good. I lowered my interest rate. I'm in a much better spot than I was. Super easy. Everybody was great. Very, very awesome people. Francis and Steve were great to work with. They're awesome. Made it through a very easy, seamless experience. I'd probably say all in all, probably $1,000 a month at least. I'm gonna lowered my interest rate, especially the way the interest rates are right now, which is, that's amazing. I'm Justin Bruckman from Knoxville, Tennessee. I saved over $1,000 with SaveWithConrad.com, and I did a lot of renovations with that money as well.
Available lesson number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com. Let's talk about these cuts, Jeff. There's a lot of people who were pretty fired up over the weekend about New Day, and there's a lot of pushback. We're not too far removed from WrestleMania, where fans were complaining there were too many commercials between the matches. Fans were complaining that it felt like everything was sponsored. The replays, the canvases, the turnbuckles, the dasher boards, every individual match.
I love it.
They've monetized it from every angle. And as a capitalist, hey, I do too. But I would say that, hey, it does take you out a little bit, but we understand it. We're hearing that guys are making more than ever and enjoying a better quality of life than ever. And I've always been an advocate for, hey, I tune in not for the company, but for the talent. And I want to pull for them and root for them and hope for their success. I want them all to do fabulously well. But when you sit through all those commercials and then you hear, hey, they're showing the door to some of our beloved favorites, especially guys like Kofi Kingston. I think it goes back to what you said earlier, that nobody is safe. Well, that is, except for a couple of people. Dave Meltzer had this to say: I believe there may be 1 or 2 guys with no-cut contracts in WWE, but it's very, very few. And I know top guys who tried to get no-cut contracts and they were told no, as they're told, but we're never going to cut you, but they still won't put it in writing. I can speak for one top talent that I know for sure tried to get this, and I don't know if they were successful or not. But I know that years ago, I'm going to guess it was 2021. It was a hot topic with one talent that I'm friendly with. They wanted a no-cut contract, and it kind of felt weird because I thought to myself, I can't imagine they'd ever get rid of you, but I also couldn't imagine they would have gotten rid of Kofi. Have you heard of no-cut contracts before? This feels like a callback to the old WCW deals way back when in 2001. What can you tell us about no-cut and whether or not that exists in WWE?
You get into the kind of the legalities of it, but a 2-year deal, I've always looked at it that, now look, if you have, and I always material breach and breach. No, if you breach your deal for ethical or legal or non-compliance or, all of the stuff that is essentially within your control, then that's where Conrad, and I know talent are different from, they just are. I got 5 kids. So the 20-year-olds and the 30 years old, and even maybe a little 40, but there is just a kind of a different mindset in the industry. And I get that. I accept that. I embrace that. I kind of think through all that or do the best I can. But when you sign a deal, you know, life is not fair. It's going to throw you curveballs. But when you're signing up and going in to a creative, and I'll call it a collaborative process, that, okay, I'm going to go into this program and we're going to go down this road and then back this way and this, you have some type of sense of security that, okay, we're in this together and the company wants to build my IP as bad as I want to build my IP. So we're rolling in the right direction. So there's some days that I'm trusting in the company that I'm doing one for the team or doing one for the program or doing some things for the greater good, knowing that it's going to come back around my way. And look, not everybody can be in that position, but I don't know, Conrad. A no-cut deal, and I can't say I thought always, but, you know, it's the old language that you use at, and I'm not going to say WCW or TNA or whatever it is. They got 90-day outs. When 90-day outs, that was, to me, if you have a 90-day out, you don't really have a contract. You've got a piece of paper that says, I agree to work for you for the next 90 days, and you agree to pay me for the next 90 days. Other than that, we don't really have a deal. So that's why, you know, when you say no cut, I don't know what you specifically mean by that, that this talent 2021, like if you sign a 2-year deal, you sign a 2-year deal. Is that not the case now at WWE?
WWE can release anybody at any time with 90 days. They don't have to honor the contract. I mean, that's clear. You're guaranteed income for 90 days.
Yeah.
And they can let you go and they're going to pay you for those next 90 days. And that's it. But the talent I was referencing, they didn't have any confidence that as things were getting shaky and murky, that they would be kept around. And if they were going to sign a 5-year deal for X number of dollars, they wanted to make sure that, hey, they got paid that amount, much like they did, you know, on a Time Warner deal way back when. Hey, if this company goes under, and that's not a foreign concept. The rumor and innuendo is that a lot of guys back when AEW was first starting, back before anybody really knew who Tony Khan was, and they didn't have any faith or confidence that, because for years and years we all heard, oh, well, there's this new big money player coming in and he's got a TV deal. I mean, we've heard that dozens of times. So many times that most people just sort of assume it's all bullshit, right, Jeff?
Yeah, no, and that's where, you know, I remember having those conversations with Dallas in that, hey, I get it. Matter of fact, I don't want half the roster. I want half the roster, or so to speak, to have 90-day outs, because you won't turn over and change. But if they get hot, let's have them on a 2-year deal. But then it's up to me to start renegotiating a year in front and 9 months in top. Let's get them on a no cut deal, because it goes both ways. I didn't know, Conrad, that everybody, and maybe I've missed that, or for the lack of a better word, what Meltzer said. There's only a few guys that have the no cut deal. That's interesting, because I think it's 90-day outs going one way.
That's exactly right. And, you know, the old Bruce Pritchard used to tell us on his podcast, hey, Vince would let them go when he was ready, not when they were ready.
Yeah.
And so even if Vince had sort of decided, hey, I'm not doing anything with that guy, I'm not interested, he didn't have to tell anybody. It was evidenced by the fact that he wasn't booked and he wasn't used. So if creative doesn't come up with anything, and that's something that I think I will admit I had a blind spot on until I was talking to JBL last week, when he said, hey, listen, I know it sucks to get fired. I've been there, but they weren't going to do anything with you. Because if they were going to, they wouldn't have let you go.
That's right.
So you would have sat and done absolutely nothing. And that's probably not what you wanted anyway. So why not just fast forward and get this over with so you can move on with your life, go recreate yourself, reinvent yourself, like Jinder Mahal, like Drew McIntyre, like Cody Rhodes, and come back and enjoy great success. I like that strategy. I understand it. But the no cut contract, I think what a lot of people lose sight of is guys go out and they obligate themselves to, hey, I'm sending my daughter to XYZ college and it costs X amount. I'm going to go buy this house and put a big down house payment down. And now they're going to draft my bank account every month for my mortgage. I just leased this so-and-so vehicle because my accountant said I needed the tax write-off. That was based on a certain amount of money. And now if I'm going to be making less, now I'm kind of stuck with this lease. Like, I think a lot of people who engage in these type of conversations online, Jeff, they forget these are real human beings who have real responsibilities and real bills and real debt. And they've got to figure out how to navigate that. But I think the no cut contract thing became a thing because some talent at the very beginning of AEW, had their talent smartly, or their agent rather, smartly and wisely negotiate a no cut contract. Barry Bloom may or may not have had something to do with that, because who knows? Is this really going to happen? Is it not? Well, we know it did happen, but it has become a big conversation about TKO and AEW. I think this represents, and maybe I'm biased because I'm friendly with a lot of folks over there, this feels like a huge PR opportunity for AEW right now, does it not?
Well, I'm going to go, yes, PR. But I don't know if it was you, Conrad, because that day all the releases came out. I got that sent to me a couple of different ways. No, and I think, yeah, that was on my gym text. The guy text, what do you think, Jeff? And I said, hey, man, what an unbelievable the opportunity the wrestling industry has right now. No house shows from either major company. And it appears that lots of talent are coming online. I think there's more opportunity in the industry now than there has been in, I don't know, several years. But it's who's going to seize it. And we've talked about this coming out of the pandemic when those guys, Cardona, Indie God, and Always Be Ready, and a couple of different things. And you just said Jinder and Drew back in 2015, 16, 17, Cody kind of during that era. There's just opportunity across the board. But as far as AEW, I think they just keep on keeping on because I think this is one of those deals. And here's where I made me clarify. When you say PR, I think the actions as opposed to touting things are screaming at the world now.
Yes.
I think they're screaming at the world that, oh, no, wait a minute. We were talking about this guy over here in this company, but boy, it sure does make a lot more sense now. So, yeah, but, it goes into for some reason during the pod, I keep thinking, what's going to show up on Unreal? What are the ratings on Unreal? What out of all of this, what's being done for Unreal and not that we may or may not know about? And it's clear, and you probably got more context on the TKO, UFC, now the boxing, like where this sits. And I know, was it Shapiro or whoever talked about the AI and how they're not, they are corporate wrestling. For better or worse, it is every day becomes more clear and more clear and more clear their vision of running a wrestling company.
Man, it's
and have we talked about the guy that basically said, yeah, we didn't have plans on keeping Vince around anyhow?
We have not talked about that. What are your thoughts?
And that was under deposition, right? So he said that under oath, correct?
I believe it was Mark Shapiro, and he testified something along the lines of keeping McMahon with his quote unquote baggage was not their goal.
And juxtapose that with what they said.
Let me get it right here. Since you brought it up, I had to find it here. Here we go. First reported by Brandon Thurston. Shapiro was asked in his deposition if he personally didn't view McMahon, quote, being in the executive role as a necessary condition for the future success of the combined company. And Shapiro answered, correct, especially with all the baggage. He was asked if McMahon remaining on board as a TKO executive chairman was a goal of McMahon's and not of what would become TKO leadership. Quote, wasn't a goal of ours. No, it was not. So, do you think the old man got okey doked?
Well, the old man is printing money more than anybody because he owns probably individually more stock than anybody. I don't know, or got to be up there. So the old man is, you talk about somebody really printing money, but you know.
By the way, let's talk about that. TKO stock in the last 5 years is up 85%.
Yeah.
In the last year, it's up 11%.
And would Vince be the single largest shareholder?
He's on the list for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So he's doing just fine, but he had plenty of money before all this would happen. I just don't, the Vince I know, I don't think he'd take very kindly to Shapiro publicly saying that.
As a number, let's put a number on it. The McMahon family has 4.52%. Individually, Vince has 3.25%. The Vanguard Group has 4.03%. BlackRock has 2.2%. State Street Corporation has 2.54%. And WME Group via Silver Lake has 61.72%. So 3.25% of all the freaking money that TKO has been making. Old Vinnie Mac's doing just fine sitting at the house.
Oh, and he was doing just fine but before all this went down.
Yes.
Yeah, he was doing fine. So I'm sure he loves the zeros being added, but at his stage, I don't think he took that very kindly.
It's interesting to say the least. I do want to ask, what do you make of some of these releases? You've had a chance to reflect on them a little bit. Your pal AJ Styles has a low-key podcast, the Phenomenally Retro podcast. Not a lot of people have discovered this yet, but he's dropping gems on there. And recently, your pal AJ said, my biggest fear in my own career was that I wouldn't get to finish. It's kind of one of those things where they didn't get to finish what they signed to do. And I know that's going to bother them. Don't let it bother you. Don't let this business destroy who you are. You're obviously great because you made it to one of the biggest wrestling companies in the world. There's no doubt about that. We have no idea what the circumstances were to get you where you couldn't be there in the WWE anymore, but that doesn't mean it's over for you. So just keep that in mind, keep your head up and see whether it takes you next. Who knows where that'd be? Maybe wrestling, maybe not, but just don't let it destroy you. He's trying to put forth some positive stuff, but I asked myself, AJ retiring out of nowhere all of a sudden might make a little more sense than we originally thought. I had insinuated that the rumor and innuendo I had heard is that he wanted to stay the whole year and offered to stay the whole year. And TKO said, no, we're good. We'll just let it finish. I don't think that's because they didn't necessarily value AJ. I think they had these budgets in mind and they knew, hey, we're going to need to be making some cuts anyway. Let's just let this one end and keep a nice relationship. And that's what they did. So AJ didn't wind up, quote unquote, jumping ship. He still works with WWE. What do you make of all this? Because there is another name I want to talk to you about, and that's Brock Lesnar. If this is true that they're coming back and renegotiating contracts, we know, or we're led to believe, that even while Brock wasn't on TV, call it January of 2024 through SummerSlam last year of 2025, he was still getting paid that whole time for exactly 0 appearances. Maybe TKO wanted to get more value out of that and wanted to renegotiate. Maybe old Brock didn't like the idea of that. So if they asked him to restructure or reconsider or take a lesser amount, maybe, possibly, he just said, I think I'll just take my gloves and boots off right here. He created a ton of leverage for himself if that's the case. I hate that we're sort of playing internet detective here and sleuth, but if we're looking back and looking at the breadcrumbs and trying to figure out which way the wind blows, what do you think about AJ and Brock Lesnar calling it a career?
Well, I just can't for the life of me know how. I don't know how you deducted and you've gotten it so freaking wrong, Conrad, because me and Alan, I mean, we did he was a couple of cameos in The Chosen One, WCW. We go back that far. And then the early days, the Asylum. And then I was in the Bullet Club at New Japan, Conrad, and he got to WWE and debut. And Road Dogg told me about that night and kind of the grin on the chairman's face. But then he's like, damn, y'all were right. And then AJ had that 10-year run. I cannot believe, Conrad, you don't see the vision that the boy from Gainesville, Georgia, wanted to hang it up in Saudi. Like, that is like a storybook ending. Start in Georgia with Bill Behrens and end in Saudi. Like, that feels oh, Conrad, hindsight's 2020 again. It all kind of makes sense. And is it the last week or 2 weeks ago? I literally, and I kid you not, thought you were joking with me that Alan Jones is a talent scout.
Yeah.
Now, come on. I'm still like, can they not come up with something? I mean, this day and age, talent scout, everything is recorded. You don't have to go to independent shows. You can just say, hey, I want to take a look at this guy and take a look at this guy. Now, you can if you want. And there's nothing like, I agree, there's nothing like hearing the live audience and getting the context of everything, the first match to the last match. Nothing replaces that. But, you know, AJ is a well-rounded individual and big gamer. And it just kind of, I don't know, got around him being a talent scout. So obviously, I think with the Kofi news and Xavier news and all of it, and maybe this Roman news, and it could be all one big fantastic Unreal season or multiple seasons. Or
Will you stop? Why are you so obsessed with Unreal?
Because they bent over backwards to fabricate nonsense. And I think I shouldn't say that, but I don't know how much money they get paid. So that nonsense may be part of Shapiro's profits. I don't
Tell
know.
everybody what you think they're fabricating nonsense wise.
Well, I haven't watched enough of it to give a clear answer, but they sure made our boy Abyss look stupid. Road Dogg look stupid. They're, to me, they're manufacturing storylines. And it's, you know, we give the silly analogies. Hey, let's do the David Copperfield. Let's show the world how he does his magic tricks. That didn't work back then, except to a small niche audience. And I think it's kind of the same fundamental here is, okay, we're going to write these storylines so we can tell our audience, gotcha. It's, I don't know, the psychology, the fundamental, it has never made sense to me. You know, and again, I've probably watched more clips on social than I have actually full-blown season or episodes. I mean, all right, Conrad, where was I? Did I answer your question? Where was I at? We were talking about, the AJ Brock. So yeah, creating the leverage. But when you said that, if they want him gone, there is no leverage. He's gone. And he said, hey, I'm out here. No need to even talk about SummerSlam. You're not going to pay me. It's fixed revenue. No need. So what do you mean by that? And I know I'm jumping around here, but
are you talking about Brock? Is that what you're asking about?
I jumped ahead to Brock. Yeah, I'm touching all the things. The AJ, I'll call it the rush retirement. That was it certainly appears. No, it's not Unreal. It was, we're not renewing your deal. Matter of fact, we want to restructure right now. And he said, okay, let's call it a career in Saudi.
To me, and I could be wrong, I don't have any inside information, but from a negotiating standpoint, if you're Brock Lesnar, and let's say hypothetically they do approach you and they want to revisit the contract and say, hey, we've got to meet our new budgets. You know, we can use you for fewer events or whatever it may be, but we need to pay you a little less. I think it would be easy for him to say, no, thanks. And if he just says no, thanks, then it looks like he's released, or you don't want any sort of negative headline out there. But if you just call an audible and you take your gloves and boots off and you throw up the X, because I don't think WWE just had a ready-made package for Brock Lesnar ready. They weren't hyping it up as if it was something immediately. Like, we saw when the Undertaker lost, they were immediate with that 21-1 graphic and all that. I was in the building that night, and that's the only way I knew that nobody made a mistake. This was the plan because they had a graphic ready for it. Well, it didn't seem like any of that was really ready with Brock. And so as a result, I thought to myself, this feels like negotiation. Now I thought at the time maybe it was Brock negotiating for more money than his current deal. Maybe it was him negotiating, saying, "No, I'm not going to take your pay cut, but I know you still need me for SummerSlam in Minnesota, and you want me to put over these other guys, and I'm available to do that. But it's going to be on my terms, aka for more money." It feels like a negotiation tactic to me. I could be wrong, but it does make me wonder. What do you think the odds are that TKO made the approach to Brock and asked him to take a pay cut and revisit his contract before WrestleMania?
He didn't need 2 and 3 contracts ago. I mean, I just can't imagine. It's another Conrad. Me and you. What'd you call it? Sleuth detective.
Yeah.
episode. And it feels like that. And I hate to get in that kind of business of doing that, but we're chattering like two boys bellied up. And I get it, but like Brock and Heyman, and you can kind of look at the connective tissue with Roman and Brock and Heyman's there, and however that's going down. But I maybe that what you're saying is a part of leverage and negotiation. I think back to looks like a duck, talks like a duck, quack, all that kind of stuff. That analogy. It feels like that SummerSlam's coming up and they need to get their marketing materials coming out of Mania kind of ready for it. That's the next really big one. And they went to him before Mania and said, "Hey, here's kind of what we're thinking." And he's like, "Hey, Danny DeVito." And he called it a career then, biggest stage. I'm sure Heyman said, go out your own way. And maybe that was a day of, look, if this is it, go do your own thing, do boots and all, and we'll hug. And it's a career. And that was closure for Brock. If I'm a betting man, that feels because they're not going to make any more money to have Brock on SummerSlam, are they? And if they are, how?
Well, I mean, it is in Minnesota, which is supposedly, we'll call it quote unquote his hometown. I know he lives in Canada now, but he certainly wrestled for Minnesota. And I think a lot of people probably imagined that he was going to wind up working Gunther there. The Gunther Brock match seemed like a dream match for WrestleMania. We didn't get it. I think considering we had heard from John Cena last year, hey, Brock's retiring next year in Minnesota. It did feel like there was an expectation or an understanding that perhaps it was going to happen at SummerSlam. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think Brock is negotiating? Do you think he was asked to take a pay cut? Let us know in the comments below, and also let us know about New Day. Where do you expect New Day to wind up? Are they going to wind up in AEW? Are they going to be a part of that program? Would you like to see New Day in AEW? Something I would like for all of us to see is guys taking control of their careers.
Yes.
I love that guys like Kofi and Xavier are saying to themselves, hey, I'm going to bet on myself. I know I've got a big guaranteed contract here, but I can probably go get another guaranteed contract somewhere else. And even if it's for less money, if I'm wrestling on Wednesdays primarily, I can hit every Comic-Con there is and absolutely clean up every weekend. And I can go do my gaming show, and I could probably start a podcast. I think you cobble it all together, and now you own businesses. You're in total control of your schedule. You're not being dictated to. That feels like a power move, just like how hiring Morgan & Morgan is a power move. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've got over 100 offices nationwide, more than 1,000 lawyers, and with over $30 billion recovered for over 500,000 clients, Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. Check some of these numbers out. In Florida, a client recently received $6.1 million after the insurance company's best offer was just $100,000. Over in Georgia, another client received $29.5 million. Up in Nashville, a client received $10.6 million. Here's the reality. If you're injured by the negligence of another, you deserve to be paid. And if you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/myworld or dial pound law. That's pound 529 on your cell phone. That's FOR, thepeople.com/myworld or pound law. That's pound 529. This is a paid advertisement. Let's talk a little bit about house shows. You touched on this earlier, Jeff. You recently saw, I'm sure, or at least saw the clip of your pal Drew McIntyre, a fellow Nashville citizen, or somewhere in the Middle Tennessee area. He was on the Bobby Bones podcast, a fellow you're pretty familiar with. And he was asked about the WWE these days. And Drew said, these days, I probably wrestle one match every couple of months. They finally eliminated most of the non-televised shows. One, the talent were just getting hurt all the time and going out quicker. And two, from a profit standpoint, it just didn't make sense. It never made sense to me profit-wise. So now the money's in the TV deals and all the other massive deals that the billion-dollar man Nick Khan is constantly making. So because I'm wrestling once every 2 months, every 3 months, I do feel like I've been in a car crash after the matches, and I train for each match now. Like I assume a boxer would train for a fight, a UFC fighter would train for a fight. I train for each pro wrestling match. Boy, talk about a total paradigm shift in the way wrestling used to be presented. Drew McIntyre saying the quiet part out loud. I know you're as old school gets. This probably doesn't even feel like your business anymore here, does it?
Well, I mean, I would love to have a conversation, a roundtable with Drew, because he put it all the way out there. And then I would love to have a music executive sitting at the table. I would love a Broadway, basically anyway, expert at the table, maybe a TV expert, just those kind of conversations. And I'm talking about get outsiders who they're parallel business. It's not the same, but I'm Conrad, and you said old school. I think what you said, and to me, I respect that, but also from a philosophical standpoint, that if you'll put that quote back up, Dave, please, because I want to make sure I don't misquote him, because he said, from a profit standpoint, it just didn't make sense. It never made sense to me profit wise. Okay. With that being said, and Dave, so here, if the chairman or any promoter will tell you, touring a brand, whether it's music or whatever it is, you got to go tour. It is a marketing initiative first and foremost. Yes, you need to make money, and with merch and running the right P&L and the influx of all the talent, a New Day to me would be much more valuable on a touring sense, and do the meet and greets. And if you want to own your paycheck and you got 20 years in, that's right. You're going to have to, you get monetized out in the field, if you will, but it's a marketing initiative. I get all that. And I get corporate wrestling. I really, really do. And we've talked ad nauseum. I respect the hell out of how much money they're printing. But if you take a kid in the music business and say, hey, we don't need you playing bars. We don't need you playing small shows. We don't need you playing sheds and amphitheaters, not even arenas. What we really want to do is we want to take you from your bedroom where you're playing your chords there, and we are going to put you right on the Grammys. Like, the concept that this just happens magically, and I'm not going to get into, but Logan Paul, he had 4 matches, and I'm not saying that you can't have that, but to develop your skill set, are we in art or not? That's where, to me, it's a head scratcher that, Vince, to me, I think his first priority was it's a marketing initiative. It's a touring brand that you hear WWE in the marketplace. That's why I used to run. He always in the tri-state area in New York, WWE was always on sale, whether it was Madison Square Garden, whether it was Long Island, whether it was Jersey. Boston was, every 3 to 4 months. And I know times have changed and you're doing a global brand, but if you have talent and a deep roster, you can have international tours and domestic tours. And kind of that churn, yes, I'm using the word churn because you've got to nurture the Trick Williams and guys that are really good but coming up, but get them seasoned, and you got to try different things. We've made this discussion over and over and over, but I that's where, like, when you see the music business, and I see it firsthand, some buddies in my morning meetings, they play Broadway. They play the honky tonks in Nashville. They also play, on the, I'm not going to say without, not Broad 2nd Avenue, but they play just in Nashville area. And then they go out on road in Texas and all this kind of stuff. It's really how you learn your trade. It's how you learn how to write songs. I'd love to have that round table and say, okay, a guy that's really going to make it on Broadway in a deal, how do they get their start? Do you just eliminate coming up the drama, schools and all that kind of stuff? That's where, Conrad, because you're not an outsider anymore, but I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on how does a talent, and I'm not saying a single talent because there are anomalies, but how do you develop talent in the pipeline? Kids don't go from, hey, I want you just to play games in football. You don't have to practice. I just want you playing, on Friday nights in high school, and you don't have to practice during the week, and then just play on Saturday nights in college, Saturday afternoons, and then on Sundays. And that's going to be your ticket. Forget all the practice and learn how to blocking and tackling and strength. And, we just want you in the weight room training, but we don't want you to practice. What's your thoughts on that, Conrad? Because to me, eliminating all of the grounds, and I say house shows, grounds to develop talent, and I get, okay, do it on somebody else's time, independent wrestling. Okay, why not commit to marketing and make it work? You don't have to run A and B towns in those expensive arenas. Go run C and D markets. Do you know how big New Day would be in Jonesboro, Arkansas?
Gigantic.
Like Jackson, Tennessee, and I'm giving, Rochester, New York, Syracuse. We could go, Spencer, Iowa. You could go down to Waco, Texas, different, Florida towns, Georgia towns. Go to the C&D markets that have these facilities. I mean, Cats football, Arena League, that building, and it's got a hell of an arena up in Clarksville. That place is rocking, and it's pro sports, and people are very appreciative. That's what just kind of confuses me on. Everybody's saying, yep, eliminate house shows. It's a thing of the past. I'm like, okay, so we don't need it? Maybe. I don't know, bud. That's where I'm trying to really absorb and take foundations from the past, but moving forward, just because TKO has cut them out, does it make it right? I don't know. I don't think so.
I, for one, would love to see house shows. I miss house shows, but I don't know that we're going to get them anytime soon.
TKO's not, and I don't. With the schedule of Dynamite and Collision, I get it. Collision's a priority. It's a Saturday night deal. That is your best night to run, quote unquote, non-televised. I totally understand all of that. But I do think there is room in the marketplace. Like I just said, you take the right talent, and I'm not talking about astronomical, the top A talent. I'm talking about good B and C talent and promote it. I just think there's money to be made, and I also think it is the best. Hell, I know, because it's not just wrestling, the music industry. They want guys touring. They want talent out on the road touring. And now it's a seasonal deal, but they want them out touring because it develops your audience.
It makes a connection with the audience.
That's right, no doubt.
They feel like they're pulling for you. And I mean, there's a reason that all these years later, we see so many of these legacy acts continue to tour every year. It has benefits. Like if they're in a town near you, you're going to go see them. You're going to buy some merch. You're going to post pictures about it on social. You're going to download some albums. You're going to start listening to it more and streaming it more. It is grassroots growth. There's no doubt about it. But it does feel like it's a whole new world out there right now. And I want to talk about AI, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about the TNA controversy that happened WrestleMania weekend. Carlos Silva was recently asked, I think this was on Busted Open, if he has a response to Will Ospreay saying that pulling TNA talent was quote unquote cowardly shit. And Carlos said, I don't know that I really need to respond. Business is business. Every pro wrestling business is going to protect itself, and we're going to continue to do that. I get a lot of heat. It's okay. The fans can bring me heat, but there's only one reason I did it, and that was to protect TNA and to have our house protected. If people are going to come at us, then we're going to do things to protect TNA. We were asked when we were looking at our TV deal, what would be the best night? And we started looking at all the nights, and we said, you know what? Everyone's got their nights. We're going to go on Thursday night, so we should be on Thursday night. So if someone's going to come on to Thursday night against us, we're going to take that seriously. If somebody's going to block us from going into a venue because they're not allowed to talk to us because another organization is there, we're going to take that seriously. That's the kind of stuff that happens. So when I hear all the chatter, I smile, and it's okay. Will Ospreay can come at me, but we're going to do what's best for TNA. We're going to do what's best for our champions and what's best for the fans. We're going to keep doing that. I think what Carlos is saying here feels fair and reasonable, but I just ask myself, did they start doing that after you agreed to book the matches? Because as I understand it, these matches were all approved by TNA, including negotiated finishes. So I get if you want to throw shade back at AEW and say they blocked us from so-and-so building and they're trying to compete with us on Thursday nights. You reckon that started before or after he approved the finishes?
Conrad, I think we're reading the same thing. I've got a thing that I'm not good at that I try to get better at. And he used to call it red ass and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is instantaneous. Responding is giving it a think through. Read the room. Obviously, I am not dialed in to any of, you don't really call that innuendo, but stuff he was referring to. I don't know the ins and outs, but I think he probably could have saved himself a lot of backlash, negativity, if moving forward, he would have laid those ground rules. But if something had been agreed upon out of his, like agreed upon between talent, because we live in a different day and age, 93, when I signed at Vince, thank God that my dad and Vince had a good relationship. And he agreed to let me keep Jeff Jarrett and be called Jeff Jarrett, because in those days, Vince came up with your own name. He owned the IP. He owned everything. But as time has come on, and I'm going to say specifically the age of instantaneous information with YouTube and social media and how the world is and the landscape that we're under, Carlos would admit they're number 3 in the marketplace. And it is what it is. When you compare revenues between WWE and AEW and TNA, look, those speak for itself. And so reading the room and saying, what is it really going to cost me moving forward? Let's finish out these couple of finishes. And then it's a relationship business, having a relationship with the individual talent on his roster to say, hey, man, I kind of got put in a bad situation. Let's all work together and row, because, and I'm using Santana or I'm using whatever TNA talent is. I think you have to agree what's best for TNA is currently best for you, said TNA talent. So let's try to figure out moving the ball down the field, how we accomplish that, and not try to cause any issues with financial pay, with, the bandwidth. You don't want distractions. You want people tuning in as much as possible because, at the end of the day, TNA is measured number one now on their AMC numbers. That's what matters. And so tune in every possible way. And did that keep the main thing the main thing? Did that contribute positive or negative to that Thursday night number on? Sounds like, Conrad, please correct me if I'm wrong, the deal was changed after it was agreed upon, correct?
Yes, I mean they were allowed to wrestle the matches and negotiated finishes. I'm including things like Nick Nemeth versus MJF, and Leon Slater versus Ricochet, and then they were no longer allowed to do that. So to be clear, the talent wasn't taken off the show; they were still booked. They just couldn't wrestle an AEW opponent. So it did feel like there was a battle line that was kind of drawn, and clearly this is a lack of communication, in my opinion.
On every level.
Yes. The left hand's not talking to the right hand, but I think Carlos brings up good points if these are facts. You and I have no inside knowledge as to whether or not it's facts or not, but hey, if that is really the case, I understand it. But I don't understand the timing of it because it's whatever was happening. It's not like it started in the middle of this. So it's a shame because I feel like with better communication, this would have been a whole heck of a lot easier. So I want to try to clearly communicate right now. If you love your dog, you got to start getting them better wild. I have seen the light. I have seen the way it affects my dog, Ginger. She turned 11 on April 1st, and I can admit she was slowing down. Not only that, she was scratching her ears. She was licking her paws. And I just thought, hey, it's just normal dog stuff. But she just didn't have the same energy. I noticed a physical difference in my dog. And some of that was because we had a new puppy running around the house. Well, I'm proud to say Better Wild has made Ginger look and feel like a puppy herself. My mom recently visited and she even commented, Ginger is the happiest dog. She just has the best disposition. Ginger's been in my life for a decade. My mom never said that before, but she's noticed the difference. And what I've noticed is that, I guess I've learned rather, allergies in dogs often start in the gut. And when things get out of balance internally, man, it can show up everywhere. Our dogs will have issues with their skin, their ears, their digestion, their energy. And listen, if you just think your dog scratching their ears or licking their paws is normal dog stuff, it's not. I thought that. Those are signs of allergies. So Ginger's not doing that anymore. But more importantly, she's got such much more energy. I can't even make a comparison to a before and after. It's like a different damn dog. Well, just like us, dogs need good bacteria to strengthen their gut health and calm down their overactive immune system. And the life hack for Ginger has been Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews. These are designed to support your pet's allergy defense by strengthening their digestion, restoring a healthy balance from the inside. They've got the first and only chews here with the Ancestral Advantage Wolf Probiotics and these natural ingredients to help reduce itching and support gut, immune, and skin health. So you're not just covering things up, you're actually supporting your dog at the source. Better Wild is committed to helping your dogs with clinically proven, veterinarian-approved solutions that you can feel great about. And right now, Better Wild is offering our listeners up to 40% off at betterwild.com/myworld. That's betterwild.com/myworld. You'll get up to 40% off your order at betterwild.com/myworld. Jeff, we've had a lot of fun talking about a lot of different topics this weekend, but we got to talk about something that's pretty killer that's happening this week. We've got a 3-hour Dynamite on TV tomorrow night. So far, we know we've got Darby Allin versus Kevin Knight for the AEW World Title. We've also got Jon Moxley versus Juice Robinson in an AEW Continental Championship Eliminator match. We've got Orange Cassidy taking on Dax Harwood in a double Jeopardy match. It's Trios Champ versus Tag Champ. We've also got Mina Shirakawa and Harley Cameron teaming up to take on Sheeta and Statlander. It's a loaded show, and it's 3 freaking hours from North Charleston, South Carolina. It gets started this week at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, but they're going 3 hours. And as if that's not enough, I can't tell you how excited I am for this weekend. It's Fairway to Hell. AEW is trying something new that I can't wait for you to see. It's a first of its kind venue. It's going to be broadcast live, as a special episode of Collision, and it's happening this Saturday at the SoFi Center on Saturday, May 9th at Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And Tony Khan has revealed that he plans to expand this idea, make it an annual event. I hope to continue this event and incorporate a charity golf tournament, Fairway to Heaven. Already announced is Jungle Jack Perry versus Mark Davis for the AEW National Championship, but just the venue itself. And Jeff, I know you're a traditionalist. You like the arena look. I like when AEW has ran different theaters and tried different looks. It makes it interesting, but this has taken that to a whole new ball game. Silva, let's pop that photo up of the inside of the venue again. Jeff, take a look at this. Like, this is going to be something else here, is it not?
Al, you call me a traditionalist. I think I've tried. Look, and I've laid a lot of eggs in my time on trying to be innovative. But at TNA, that was at the very top. Guys, we cannot do the same thing over and over. That's the definition of insanity. I love these kind of new venues. I always have, way back in the day, hey, put a wrestling ring up on home plate. Those kind of deals. It brings a uniqueness to it. Sometimes you hit it out of the park, and sometimes you hit it in the sand. So they may hit one. No, it's going to be cool. But I love out of the box venues. I think it gives the wrestling fan something to gravitate toward. There's going to be people the first time that this has ever happened. I love that Tony's already putting some tailwind behind it, if you will. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a super cool experience. I know as a talent, when you walk into a venue that's not your traditional arena or soundstage or a stadium show, I can remember walking with Shane O'Mac in MetLife and him and Miz and the different scaffolding and this and that. And like, okay. But anyway, you have a new playground as a talent. So I expect a lot of that. But man, back to our conversation, Conrad, earlier about the depth of the roster. When you look at a 3-hour show and I know for time, you were going through match by match by match. Dax and Cassidy, OC, that to me jumps off the page. I want to see that in so many ways because, Dax, he is, and proudly so, a traditional tag team wrestler. If you will. He's in a singles here. OC is anything but a traditionalist. He combines during this modern era, I believe that OC combines character work and flat out talent in ring work. I think he combines it better than anybody. And that's taking in a lot of ground because when you watch just his bell-to-bell athletic ability, you go, all right, the guy can go. But then you kind of get into his character work, and I'm talking about from the time he walks through the curtain. So, yes, this Dynamite Collision 3-hour special, it's another highlight of look at the depth of the roster. You ran through it, but Mox match, OC in a match, Mina and Harley tagged up. I mean, we brought in a lot of ground right there. So yeah, and that's just this Wednesday, let alone what you talked about. Jungle Jack, he's going to be knocking Mark Davis. He'll probably pull out the driver, or maybe the 4-wood, maybe the 3-wood, Connie. I'm sure there's going to be you think our pal Shivani's going to come up with a few golf innuendo one-liners to call comments.
I hope they've got Nigel on that show because Nigel's just going to be rapid fire with them.
Play a little putt-putt, a little pitch and pitch. Stop. Just stop.
We had a lot of fun this week. We hope you guys did too. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notifications bell. Next week, Jeff, I'm going to ask you to tackle kind of a big topic. It's become a big talking point, not just in wrestling, but in America. We're going to talk about AI in wrestling a little bit next week, and I really want your take because we've seen the announcement or the revelation rather that WWE has used AI, and some people automatically immediately jump to, they're using AI for creative. Well, a lot of people use AI to scan, spreadsheets and find patterns and things like that. So there is a business application for AI, but a lot of people are curious, what about wrestling creative AI? We'll talk about that next week here on the show. In the meantime, cruise on over to prowrestlingtees.com. Don't forget to get your limited edition 40 years of Jeff Jarrett metal art print. Fabulous job by Mel Coleman. It's metal. It's autographed. There's only 100 made, and Tim Random Prints will have custom inscriptions on sale now at prowrestlingtees.com. Don't forget to check out the Cats football. That's KATS in the Middle Tennessee area.
This Saturday.
I just saw over the weekend, you guys have Joey Chestnut coming to Shoes Baseball. Man, you got all kinds of fun stuff on the docket this summer.
I'm telling you, we do. Shoes Baseball, Quincy team, Decatur Beanballers, but Shoes Baseball. We had a sold out event. A couple. Ozzy did a speaking engagement, but yeah. Go to @Shoes Baseball to get all of the summer promotions. Guy, opening day is this month, into this month. God, it's hard to believe, Conrad. Time is flying. Yes. So Cats, we roll back into town, Conrad. And I just give you this little out note here. Yesterday, 5 seconds to go, we were playing the Kentucky Barrels at Kentucky. We were 2-0. They were 2-0. No, they were 3-0 because of the way the schedule is. Anyway, both of us were undefeated. Conrad down to 5 seconds. They had the ball on the 2. They, as opposed to pass it, they ran it up the gut. Got stopped, but as the guy was falling down, he lateraled Conrad to the left. The guy caught the lateral, took one more step. He got stopped. I thought, game over. Right before he hit the mat, he lateraled again out to the receiver. He called it, scored. We got beat on a last-second play by 1 on a double lateral walk-off touchdown. Arena ball is a ton of fun, man. A absolute ton of fun. We come back to Clarksville F&M Bank Arena. Everything is at Cats football. Oregon Lightning roll into town. Kickoff at 4. Doors open at 3. Check social media all week. So really fired up for this week's game.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And Jeff, you need all the help you can get sports wise. I mean, just now you referenced a guy getting tackled in football and you said right before he hit the mat, I think you mean turf.
Turf.
And the rumor and innuendo is over the weekend, you said, damn, just talking about promoting baseball. I'm going to start playing baseball. You fancied yourself a pitcher.
Here we go.
And a young whippersnapper who I don't even think has graduated high school yet took you yard. Is that real? You're letting high school seniors hit home runs up. They're hitting dingers off of you, Double J. Defend yourself.
When Coach gets out of school today, if it's not his first question, it'll be 2 or 3 because he's got it down. Dad, you talk about me on the podcast today? Yeah, Codes. You know how Conrad is. Today, did you talk about my home run today, Dad? I'll say, well, Conrad, he goes, yeah, I took you yard, Dad. And the whole dugout knew it. I'm like, God, don't even start. Y'all, come on now.
Here's what we found. World's greatest singer, world's greatest entertainer, world's greatest wrestler. And that's it. Put a period. Not pitcher. Not world's greatest pitcher. I heard they were trolling him from the dugouts. I don't even know that you'll be able to show your face around those parts. Shout out to young Cody Angle. I saw over the weekend. He placed first and second in different events in the Special Olympics.
Boy,
we love some Coaster. He had, I saw a clip of him just blazing down the track, and he wrote, had to turn the jets on. How do you not love Cody, man?
Turn the jets on. And he bitched and complained about, I'm in the javelin this year. I'm in the javelin this year. I'm in the javelin this year. I said, Coach, you're going to do great. He stepped up to to do it. One throw won it all. He had a walk-off javelin throw. I kid you not. Boy's got an arm. And then Saturday, him up to bat. Oh, my gosh. Conrad, I will end with this. Did you play kickball as a kid?
Everybody did, at least in school, right?
So we had everybody's got the kickball stories, but in school you have it and all this recess, all this kind of stuff. You always had that one kid as he walked up, the guy who's the pitcher rolling the ball, the pitcher looks for back up. This guy's up, back up. Cody, when he came up to bat the second go around, oh boy. The infield moved way back and the outfielders went all the way to the fence. He cranked it over. I'm so happy for him.
It does not skip a generation. Shout out to Cody Angle and shout out to you guys. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. We'll see you next week right here on My World.
Peace.